as a successful leader, you must acknowledge that there is the need for business development. You must agree there is a need for business development. But you also must be willing to navigate your entire team, whether that be a business or a department, but that entire team that you work with through change. And for many people, the prospect of change can be daunting, can be scary. So let's talk about how to lead your team through change today in JTinTheRaw with 8 steps to leading your team through change. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to JTinTheRaw show 208, where I chew the thin on business, and after 31 years in business, I have just a few thins to chew. Good morning, everybody. Great having you on board. This is a regular Friday morning for so many people. Good morning, Susie. Great having you on board so early from down there in the cold state of Victoria. Today, I want to talk about this change because fascinating times that we live in. We all admit that. I'm not saying unprecedented. I'm saying fascinating. And during these times, there is so much change happening in our business. So much change. So I want to give you 8 steps today to think about ingraining change inside your business. John Nastar, good evening. I will come back to you over the weekend. So by Monday, you'll have responses to me on our new campaign. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Okay, here are the 8 steps in case you only want to watch this part of the show. Number 1, create a plan. Number 2, understand the end goal. Number 3, communicate early. Number 4, identify your key players in your team. Number 5, delegate tasks. 6, set realistic objectives. 7, manage the expectations. And 8, hold people accountable. Those 8 steps are what we are going to work through right now to give you a bit of an idea. Jasmine, g'day. How are you, Jasmine? How have you been? All right, so first up, if you're going to have change in your team, change in your department, change in your business, you've got to create this plan. Every business at the moment, and not even at the moment, but definitely at the moment, requires change in order to survive and indeed thrive. And if a company is not innovating and reacting to the changes in the market and what the market demands, well, it's certainly going to collapse. Maddie Frost, good morning and happy birthday for this week, big guy. Hope you had an awesome day, week, month. I don't know how long you're going to stretch the birthday out for, Maddie. But what we need to do is we need to make sure we're not making change for the sake of change. And I think this happens a lot in many businesses is we just make the change for the sake of it. So before embarking on this transformation journey in our business, we need to have this solid plan. We need to identify the areas of the business that need to be updated, the areas of the department that need to be updated, and we need to then put this plan into action. Marissa Hoff, good morning. Hope your holiday, your little vacay is going well, and I hope all your friends are safe in California with all those fires. Okay, so number 1, set the plan. Number 2, we need to understand what our end goal is. It's critical for us to understand the goal and the objectives before we start out. Like, where is the company now and where do we want to take it to? And as a leader, you must have the confidence and the capability to change tack, even though another path may look clearer, but it makes more sense to go the route that you're on. You need to listen to your employees, listen to your team. You need to be bold enough to make the adjustments and the direction in order to get to that end goal. Get rid of your pride, get rid of your ego as a leader. The path for change and innovation is not set in stone. It'll come from working with your team. Understand the end goal, understand the pattern, the play that you need to make in order to get there. G'day, Dwayne Wimmer over there in the United States of America. Great having you on board. Number 3 is you need to communicate. And what I like about this tip that I read is you actually need to communicate early. We know in corporate change, any change, we know in corporate that communication is king. It needs to be early, it needs to be fast, and it needs to be robust. From day one, it is really critical to having all of your team on board and behind you as a leader. We kind of want to make them aware, I guess, of the developments, but ensure that they understand this end goal. Let's keep the lines of communication open. They're in the trenches. They're facing those changes, and they can tell you the feedback. We want to involve all of the team. That way, they got that buy-in. Giving them the opportunity to share their ideas, their concerns, their comments, their suggestions throughout all of this change. Yvonne, good morning. I worry too much about leaders going out on a limb by themselves and trying to make the changes without that communication and therefore facing the repercussions of not having the troops behind them to give them the feedback or to give them the ideas and also buying into the direction that our change is going. So, number 3 is communicate early. Number 4, identify your key players. So people are going to react very differently when we're thinking about transformation in the workplace. And your responsibility as the leader is to identify who are the advocates for change. Who are the people that are going to support the change? But you also want to identify the people who may in fact be the saboteurs. Does that mean you're going to get rid of them? No, not at all. What it means is that you know who your key players are that you need to get on board from the beginning as we start to make these changes. And we want to walk through these changes with some people at a slower pace, communication clearly, and others we can do it at a quicker pace. Your team members will give you an amazing view of the new processes as we slowly put them into practice. But they'll also be skeptical. They'll be skeptical to change and even to participation. So to help the morale of the place, identify your key players and shape your communication accordingly. Number 5, don't be afraid to delegate some tasks. I know as leaders, we like to do everything all the time. And leading from the front is important. It's one of the greatest scenes in a movie, in Braveheart or in Gladiator, where the generals are out the front of their troops. And that's what you will be doing at the moment through change. You're out the front. But you can also delegate responsibilities. You can't implement all the change alone. Now, this is critical. For success, you're going to have to delegate some of the responsibilities to individuals. Just give them deadlines. Follow up with them. Coach them. Support them. But enlist their support. Oh, John Nastor, great quote. The opposite of a good idea is sometimes a better idea. I love that. I love it. Now, while you're going through this change in our business or in our department, you've got to make sure, even though you've delegated those tasks out, you're still on hand to answer any questions. You're there to provide guidance and offer lots of support, but not take over. What we need them to run the process. Have them run the process. They will feel more accomplished, feel part of the culture, feel part of the change, and most importantly, they'll take ownership in this change. Change is exciting. All right, number 6, set realistic objectives. Okay, one thing that I see a lot with leaders is the objectives are up here and the performance is here. So we never actually really sat down with our team and analysed and worked out, are our objectives realistic? We know change can be slow, we know change can be painful, so therefore we need to take all of the factors into consideration when we're setting those objectives. So they need to be realistic. It is, I think it's, reasonable to expect that some team members will put in more effort, some will put in a little bit less effort. So those targets have to be realistic. Don't set those expectations too high because we don't want to have a floundering or a despondent team because we haven't hit the targets that we set. So let's be realistic with what we're trying to do. Which comes back then to number 7, which is managing the expectations. As the leader of the business, one measurement you will have as the value or the worth of you as a leader will be analysing your ability to manage expectations. When you lead a department, when you have to get through this change, managing expectations is more critical than ever. Clarifying what is expected from employees and then having them know what that they can expect from you. So expectations goes both ways through change. What the team can expect from you as a leader, but what you expect from the team as well. And finally, number 8, around change, which is really interesting, is actually holding people accountable. Now, I hear this a lot. Millennials don't like to be held accountable because they just quit. Look, the reality is, forget about people's age and think about them as just human beings. Hold your team accountable for implementing the change. Now, in order to do that, you must be fair to them. You must give them and equip them with all the tools that they need, the talent that they need, the resources that they need, and even the delegated responsibility that we talked about in order to finish this race, in order to finish the change. This is what we have to do as leaders. Yeah, I agree, Maddie Frost. Those expectations do go both ways, and I love the way you express that. So they're the 8 tips, and I'm wondering what you think of them. I'm wondering what you think of those. We know, at this time, regardless of the business size, whether you could be a sole operator with only one person working for you or no people working for you, or you could be a big organisation, or you could be just the leader of a department. What we know at this current time is that there is change and there is lots of change happening around us. And we may even need to change to innovate. If you haven't read Who Moved the Cheese by Spencer Johnson, get the book, read it. It is an awesome book. It is simple to read, but it helps us analyse the type of people that work for us and then gives us ways that we will handle those people. So, read the book, Who Moved the Cheese, and analyse these 8 steps again. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses as a leader around these 8? What are your strengths and weaknesses around these 8 ways to implement change in your business? Creating a plan. I know I'm all right at creating a plan. Understanding the end goal. I'm pretty good at understanding the end goal. Communicating clearly. No, that's a weakness of mine. I communicate well, but it's in my head, and getting it out of my head onto paper or to an email or in a correspondence, sometimes I struggle with, and so people don't actually get what I'm trying to get through. So communication is something I could work on. Identify my key players. Absolutely, I know exactly who in my organisation I need to win over when we're looking at change. Delegate tasks. I have no problems with delegating tasks. Setting realistic objectives, big weakness. I set the goals, the bar up there, and I'm completely unrealistic. I know that, and that's something that I always work on. Number 7, manage expectations. Ooh, that's a hard one. I don't know whether I manage. I think I do a good job at that. I'm not sure I do a great job at that. I think that's something that I could probably work on. And holding people accountable. Yes, I hold people accountable. How I hold them accountable is something I can definitely work on. how I hold them accountable is something I can work on. So what about for you? Can you do a little audit like that for yourself around those 8 items? Again, creating a plan, understanding the end goal, communicating clearly, identifying key players, delegating tasks, setting realistic objectives, managing expectations, and holding people accountable. As a leader, we have to do all of these. And for all of us, it could simply be a work in progress, and that's okay. But let's make it a work in progress. Progress, moving forward, not running on the spot. So I hope you got some value out of today's show. You know, we're talking about change. It's all around us, innovation all around us. We have to accept it. We have to acknowledge that we actually need it in order to improve. Oh, Gerard, thank you. Now that is a really honest statement. I really appreciate that feedback. And if you need any help with that, certainly yell out. But I'm sure you can pull that off yourself. You will be perfect at that. But we've got to be willing, have a team that is willing to navigate through change as well. But we have to be willing to navigate through change. It's exciting times. For many of us, business is slowly returning to normal in some areas, and others, there's still a few painful bits that we're going to get to. But we will get through this, and the better, the faster, the easier you can handle change in your business and lead change in your business, the better, the faster, and the easier your business life and your business will be. So if you got any value out of today's show, please tag anybody in the comments below. I'd be really grateful for that. Or hit the share button on wherever you're watching this from. Just hit the share button and share it. I'd really appreciate it. I'd be eternally grateful for any sharing, any tagging, as always. Thank you for tuning in to JTinTheRaw show 208. We are on the same time every single week trying to inspire you or motivate you or even just give you a few little tips around business. Hope you have an awesome weekend, and I'll catch everybody on the flip side.